morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. I'm your host, Benjamin Abel, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Tim Diacono. It's going to be quite a jam-packed episode today, as apart from the usual 5 stories, we'll also be interviewing Matthew Potts, the Secretary of the Association for Catering Establishments, to discuss the way COVID-19 has impacted Malta's restaurants. Before we jump right into today's stories, I would like to say a word about our sponsor, Ecabs. Ecabs is hosting a huge Holiday 2020 giveaway, and it's got €20,000 worth of prizes to give away. The top prize is worth a whopping €15,000, and it's 1 year of free cab rides. Other prizes include the iPhone 12, and there's so much more you can get your hands on. To opt into this competition, all you have to do is follow 3 very easy steps. First of all, download the Ecabs app, then book yourself a ride and opt into the Ecabs circle, and finally share the video that is linked in the comment section and tag 3 friends in the comment section. Now with that, let's jump into the 5 stories of today. Record-breaking cocaine stash discovered at Freeport. Malta to remove 4-year divorce clause. Matthew Caruana Galizia calls out university after lecturer blames him for his mother's murder. New COVID-19 cases in Malta below 100 for second consecutive day. Zookeeper apologizes to animal commissioner after warning he'll get her fired. Tim, do you want to start us off with the first story?
Yes, so a record-breaking cocaine stash was discovered at Malta's Freeport yesterday, said to be around €70 million worth of cocaine. It was found on a ship that was headed from a South American country, believed to be Colombia, headed towards Libya and then passing en route to Malta. It is announced by the Finance Minister, Clyde Caruana, in Parliament yesterday. It's said to be the biggest ever drug bust in Malta's history. To put things into perspective, the value of the cocaine in this particular haul was worth around as much as customs officials usually find in a whole year, and it was just on one boat. So we're talking a significant amount of cocaine.
Yes, to put that into perspective, the cocaine weighed around 612 kilos and came in 510 different packets. And onto a bit of a different note, Malta is finally removing a 4-year divorce clause. So yesterday, Malta's cabinet approved draft legislation that would see the clause that requires couples to prove they've been informally separated for 4 years to allow the couple to be divorced. Now, so once this clause is removed, couples do not need to prove they have been informally separated for 4 years. Roberta Bella, Malta's Prime Minister, even went to Facebook to talk about this, where he said, and I quote, "Over the last weeks, I asked whether the present law still makes sense when it's creating injustice." Abella's comment was prompted after the opposition party, the PN, asked when these reforms will be tabled. Ironically, the current leader of the Nationalist Party, Bernard Grech, was one of the major anti-divorce campaigners back in 2011. Divorce was legalized back in 2011 in Malta, thanks to referendum. It's also important to note, however, that Bernard Grech has since changed his stance and he is highly in favor of divorce. He's even campaigning for this clause to be removed swiftly.
Yes, so 8 years ago, Malta was one of the only countries in the world where divorce wasn't allowed, and society has progressed quite a great deal since then. And the fact that there's barely any controversy at all about the fact that this 4-year clause is being removed, I really think it shows it's high time to remove it. There's no point in it being there. If people decide to break up the marriages, why not go straight for a divorce if that's what they want? Moving on, Matthew Caruana Galizia, son of assassinated journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia, has called out the University of Malta after history lecturer Simon Merchia partially blamed him for his mother's murder. So Simon Merchia on his blog said that Matthew had some fault for his mother's murder because he had parked her car outside their home the night before she was killed 3 years ago. And Simon Merchia's point is that this made it easier for the hitmen to place a bomb inside. They should have known that a life was in danger. Therefore, their attempts to get some kind of financial compensation from the murder will take a hit. Now, this is quite ridiculous, in my opinion, especially when you consider the way that he's been talking about some other people like Jorgen Fenech, who has actually been charged with the murder, and the blame is now falling on the son of Daphne Caruana Galizia. Remember that these are people here literally accusing a son of having a part to play in his mother's murder. It's very, very cruel, very inhumane, and seeing it coming from a lecturer is just very sad as well.
Of course. I guess we're expecting the university to make some sort of comment about this. I know that if I led the university, I wouldn't want someone like Mircea teaching my students. Now, on to some good news. Malta has registered less than 100 new new COVID-19 cases for the second day in a row. So yesterday, Malta registered 79 new cases and 79 recoveries. Having said that, Malta's active cases went down from 1,901 to 1,898, and this was due, unfortunately, 3 COVID-19 patients passed away yesterday. Now, this brings Malta's COVID-19 death toll up to 160. Malta has also been seeing quite a few developments in the COVID-19 vaccine sphere. Around 3 days ago, Malta's Deputy Prime Minister and Health Minister Chris Fearn announced Malta's COVID-19 vaccine strategy. I also confirmed that Malta will be getting 1.6 million doses of the vaccine from Pfizer and BioNTech, and secondly from Moderna and AstraZeneca.
Yes, hopefully we're approaching the end of this saga. Hopefully the masks can soon come off, and some element of proper normality will return. I think people are getting a bit desperate for it right now, and yes, hopefully the vaccine will herald this in the coming weeks and months. Moving on to our final story, Sejiwi zookeeper Anton Rea Kutayar has apologized to the new Animal Rights Commissioner Alison Bedzina after he said that she should get fired because of her lack of experience in the animal sector. Now, Alison Bedzina has been taking quite a strong stance against zoos. Anton Kutayar took it very personally, said that accusing her of having any experience whatsoever. Then he made quite a suggestive comment saying that I will send a letter to the people I need to send it to, and this was heavily implied as him threatening to use his political influence to get her fired. However, he's now retracted that. He said, I didn't really mean that. I was feeling emotional because I was suffering lots of attacks. I apologize to her for offending her, and I'm ready to work side by side with her for the sake of animals. It was good to see, at least. Hopefully, not just him, but people learn their lesson before just spouting off and attacking people, especially when, making false accusations, attacking their identity and whatever. It's not on, it's only going to be worse for you. But at least he has apologized after this.
Certainly. A lot of people actually came out in favor in support of Alison Bedzina. Alison Bedzina is a very well-loved figure in Malta's animal rights and animal activism community due to the fact that she was actually, she is actually an animal rights activist herself, and she's been so for a good number of years. Now, before we move on to our interview with Matthew Potch, I'd like to remind you about Ecabs Holiday, Huge Holiday 2020 giveaway. Ecabs has a whopping €20,000 worth of prizes to give away. The first one, the biggest prize, is worth a whopping €15,000. and it is a year's worth of free cab rides. Other prizes include the iPhone 12 and so much more. In order to participate in this competition, all you have to do is follow 3 very, very easy steps. First of all, download the Ecabs app, then book yourself a ride and opt into the Ecabs circle from the app, and share the video that is linked in the comment section and tag 3 friends in the comment section. Now we're going to be heading to a video from our sponsor Ecabs, and then we'll see you shortly for our interview with Matthew Potch.
Hey everyone, we've got something huge up for grabs. Probably our biggest and best competition yet, worth a whopping 20,000 euros, and it's super easy to win. We've teamed up with Ecabs to give away 1 whole year's worth of free cab rides to 1 lucky winner. That's 12 whole months of ridiculous convenience and efficiency without spending a single cent on transport. They now don't only have the black cabs anymore. Awesome. How do you win? Step 1, download the Ecabs app. Step 2, book yourself a ride and opt into the Ecabs circle, which will allow you to save money, earn points, and get some great benefits. Step 3, share this video and tag 3 friends in the comments below. It's really that simple. Now, if an entire year's worth of free cab rides just doesn't do it for you, there's a bunch of other great prizes up for grabs, including a brand new iPhone 12 and so much more. And if you've already booked 1 ride this year, just opt in. Competition ends December 25th at midnight. This sounds almost too good to be true. Just opt in.
Sorry guys, I was stuck in traffic and I really couldn't find parking.
Matthew Potch, Secretary of the Association for Catering Establishments. Thank you for joining us on Lovin Daily today. A recent survey conducted by the ACE found that around a quarter of restaurants in Malta, could close their doors for good due to the COVID-19 situation. Do we know how many restaurants have already had to close down because of the situation we're in?
First of all, thank you for the invite for this interview. The survey we did approximately mid-October showed that the people who participated in the survey, practically our members, which are 10% of the licensing foothold, said that possibly a quarter of them would eventually permanently close down. Actual statistics of how many eventually closed down until now, in reality we do not have it. We've had to rate the number of members which aren't there anymore operating. I would range in the 12% region of the members we had pre-COVID, which now are not operating anymore. The reality is that this is a tough time, for every business in general, but especially for the hospitality and catering sector. The thing is, we were undergoing a positive economic vibe until a couple of years ago, let's say until last year, and many businesses structured their projections on the revenue streams of those days, basically. Certain locations and certain catering establishments were sustaining top heavy rents, especially in prime locations. So the eventuality of COVID hitting them hard is, to a certain extent, it exposed the unsustainability of not having a plan B for the revenue stream in a case like as happened for an unforecasted scenario. So I would assume that from our membership base in the 12% region so far have closed down.
And how many would that be in actual numbers?
Well, basically our membership base today is around about 400. In Malta there's 4,071 catering establishments licensed with the Malta Tourism Authority, excluding an additional 400 which are licensed with the Commissioner of Police, the famous casini and so on, and sports clubs and so on. Basically, I would, in our case, obviously, I said 12% of our members are not operating anymore. The actual number of restaurants that closed down, we are all out and about, and we see certain establishments which are permanently closed now, sort of. But the actual number of restaurants that have closed down, I cannot actually give you the actual number for it, you know.
How would you assess the way restaurants have been treated by the government throughout this pandemic? Do you think that small and large restaurants have been treated the same?
As an association, we are very in sync with the powers that be. Basically, we have a very good collaboration with Prime Minister, the Minister of Tourism, the previous one and the current one as well, and the Minister of Economy as well. Basically, we have, at the end of the day, we are a lobby group. You know, we represent a very large segment of the business population in Malta. We founded our association basically because practically catering establishments did not have a voice. There are another 3 associations, not to mention any names, that to a certain extent represented our sector, but you cannot have a shared focus representing one kind of sector and representing another. There's always going to be a conflict of interest at some point. So the fact we founded our association a year and a half ago and we practically exploded with our members during the COVID period was a clear signal that there was a dire need for our association in the first place. Obviously, we did our lobbying with government. The wage supplements helped us a lot. The government even proposed back in, if I'm not mistaken, in May, that we have the rent subsidy and the electricity subsidy.
Have they arrived yet?
Oh, well, basically, everybody applied for them probably 3 months ago. But these are much needed funds that our association has been lobbying for us to have. These are the shoulder months. These are the months that every business is struck negatively throughout an normal year, let alone now. Obviously, the wage supplement has helped us a lot. We are asking government as well to kindly give us the wage supplement, just like hotels. Basically, hotels were given 800 per employee, while restaurants were given, catering establishments were given 600 per employee. We have asked government to be on par with the hospitality sector. And we have also asked government that the employees that did not remain in our employment after the 9th of March, their replacement be subsidized as well. Basically, catering establishments is probably the highest, there's the highest changeover of staff probably compared to any other sector, because it's a very, very demanding segment. When people are enjoying themselves, we are working hard. And the fact that we had a certain amount of employees which we had a wage supplement for them because they were employed before 9th March, and the ones that replaced them weren't actually replaced, has hit us cash flow wise. You know, now 10 months after we are, 9 months, 10 months after we are cash flow depleted. So we really need the rent subsidy, the funding of the rent, electricity, and the wage supplements to happen basically as soon as possible.
So the situation would be that like a restaurant would have, for example, 10 employees, waiters, chefs, and some of them would leave for whatever reason, and then the replacements don't get subsidized.
The wage subsidy, basically, John Borch, to mention a name, was employed with my company until the 9th of March. If he left on the 31st of March, whoever replaced him, we will not have the wage subsidy replaced. Through the grapevine, government has given us indication this is going to happen imminently, and I believe it's going to happen. But the sooner it happens, because of our cash flow situation, the more we can survive through this very tough ordeal. At the end of the day, all businesses are in survival mode, to be honest, you know. So the sooner we get out of this and we're still swimming along means that all the government initiatives have really aided our sector at the end of the day, you know.
The wage supplement is meant to last so far until March. Is that enough, or do you think it will have to be extended again? And if so, like when is it going to end?
Well, the government, what's being said is that the vaccine is around the corner, hopefully in the first weeks of January. The vaccine is the hope everybody's been looking forward to. I am an optimist as a person, as is our association in general, basically, and we believe that hopefully by March, let's say, as the Prime Minister said, May, June, this will be behind us. Obviously, right now it's hitting us hard because, as I said before, these are the peak shoulder months, you know, so it's throughout the summer period with the help of the vouchers, which had really sustained our sector heavily. And the fact it was summer, kind of we got away with it. But when kind of the second wave of the cases escalated, and October, November came along, and the shoulder months are here, it is really hitting us hard now. So basically, the sooner this happens, the better it is. The fact that the wage supplement is until March, obviously, as an association, we're always going to ask for more support as much as possible. But at a point in time, the government has to detach himself, because we have to look at the bigger picture. At the end of the day, there isn't a bottomless pit to sustain every employee. So basically, at a point in time, we have to disconnect. So whether it's going to be March or whether it's going to be May or June is subject to debate. But I believe that hopefully March to June this will be behind us, fingers crossed.
Obviously, the lack of tourists has harmed the hospitality industry, but have you noticed any change in eating patterns from the Maltese public? Do you think that Maltese residents are going out to eat less? And if so, is it because do you think it's because they're scared that they'll get COVID, or because they have less money to spend than they used to?
Well, obviously the disposable income is not what it used to be, and basically this has hit everybody's pockets at the end of the day, so it's what certain people used to earn in 2019, and most people are not earning the same in 2020. So obviously what is affected by that is the commodity, do we go out more? And so with regards to eating patterns, people are shifting a lot to delivery service. People are very cautious. When the Prime Minister announced that post-lockdown restaurants were to reopen on the 22nd of May, it took a good 3 to 4 weeks until people they overcame the confidence factor. And so I think it took 3 to 4 weeks until the restaurants started seeing attendance again.
That's also when the vouchers were.
The vouchers helped a lot. The vouchers, the government said they're going to be issued again in January, and I think the sector badly needs the presence of the vouchers again to put us through, hopefully, what is the conclusion of this COVID saga. People are skeptic, especially, obviously, we all are related to certain elderly family members. I myself, my mother's 81 years of age, so I'm very, very cautious, where I go, who I meet. And obviously this happens across the board. So people are cautious, I'm not going to say skeptic, but when they go to a restaurant, they have to be very, very confident that all the guidelines are in place and all the restaurateurs are abiding by the rules. Now, in all fairness, I feel that the restaurant sector and the catering establishment sector were very cautious. Unfortunately, there were a few bars which went overboard, and because of certain bars which went overboard, the whole segment, which I'm talking about, 2,273 licensed bars had to close because a few who didn't abide by the guidelines. But I think all in all, for such a footfall, as I said, of license of 4,000 catering establishments, the restaurants, I think, are very cautious and made sure that their customers are in their comfort zone.
Do you agree that with the current situation where bars have to remain closed until January, snack bars have quite a few restrictions on them, but restaurants don't have any restrictions at all? Do you agree with this logic?
Well, honestly, there was we had a bit of an issue over the decision-making process of this, because at the end of the day, most snack bars are licensed restaurants. They are licensed as snack bars, but they had the same requirements requested by the Motor Tourism Authority and all other authorities to get a snack bar license. Obviously, the name snack bar sounds like a bar, when in reality, the majority of snack bars, which if not mistaken ranges in the 1,900 something, are fully fledged restaurants. Certain casini are fully fledged restaurants. Most people think of a casino like we used to think of it about 30, 40 years ago, Most casinos today are fully fledged restaurants which are licensed by the Food Safety Unit, which falls under the remit of the health authorities as well. So even the fact that some of these had to close down, I think it was a bit unfair. Obviously, the decisions have been taken. As I said, we're always debating with the authorities that make the decision making at the end of the day, and our response is very positive. Unfortunately, the snack bars can't serve alcohol, but the same establishment with a restaurant's license can, to try and find the sensibility of that is a bit of an anomaly, to be honest, but hopefully we'll pull through these last few weeks, and fingers crossed January we'll start getting back to normality.
Some restaurants and cafeterias are still doing relatively well despite everything. Is there anything that, besides the vouchers, besides the wage supplement and the rent and the rent subsidies, is there anything that a restaurant can do of their own accord to attract more customers inside?
I think if we had to evaluate, let's talk about our association's membership base, the ones that are happy with the current scenario, the way they are managing their business. And the difference is how innovative certain restaurateurs are and how much oriented for the delivery service they are. I think something I have noticed that the restaurateurs who have their presence actively present on site are kind of stealing a march over those who aren't as active as the rest. Obviously, then there are the bigger structures which are very, very marketing active. Obviously, make no mistake, everybody has felt the decrease in sales, some more than the rest, but I think that the restaurateurs who are hands-on and present for their business might be stealing a march on those who might not be as present. And obviously, as I said, those who are marketing innovative, delivery oriented, deliveries today has taken a very, very big chunk of the segment. I think where an average restaurant used to make 10% deliveries, now that 10% has probably gone 30-35%. So the more delivery focused we are and the more innovative and less stereotype, like run-of-the-mill restaurant, well, basically, a lot of establishments are normal, kind of stereotype, casual diners. Everybody's serving the same thing, I think the ones who are creative, innovative, and are offering something else to the general public, I think might be stealing a march over the competition.
Finally, the Prime Minister is saying that he intends, everything, the country to go back to business as usual by May, which isn't too far away. But do you think that restaurants, bars, and even nightclubs will ever be the same again, or there's still going to be this hang-up of COVID?
When we say everybody depicts that the business as it was kind of a golden scenario. There were ifs and buts and problems in the business model we had before, because the catering sector had problems this time last year. For example, recruiting staff was a nightmare. Going into certain catering establishments and being served by foreigners who can't speak a word of English was a very, very common complaint, To a certain extent, I think the business scenario will be totally different. As I said before, I think businesses in general are in survival mode, catering establishments and the hospitality sector as well. Once we survive through this, I think we do have to adapt to a very different scenario. I think deliveries are here to stay. People being cautious are going to be even just as cautious, maybe not as much as now, once we overcome this vaccine issue. But I think there will be an element of caution. Something that has really taught us a lesson is that the cost control, business owners are very frugal and cost conscious. I think that has given us a very, very tough lesson, which is there to teach us all that after we are out of this kind of COVID scenario, I think the cost consciousness is going to remain there, and the focus on the customer care importance has become even more a priority. Even the restaurants that were doing well were very customer care oriented. But I think that this is a lesson learned, and there's going to be a lot of positives out of it as well. About the Prime Minister saying, hopefully May this will be behind us. On a personal level, I also think the same, if the vaccine is here in January and we are approaching the summer months again, hopefully tourists are back on the scene, because not having 2.7 million tourists in a whole year is quite a large consumption of alcohol and food, apart from other domino effect on the economy in general. So I think once we get back to normality, yes, this will be in the past.
And how will eating out the restaurant be like in 2022?
Well, I don't think that people will be uncomfortable going to eating out in restaurants. I think that people weren't uncomfortable this summer, because people use the vouchers. If not mistaken, the Minister of Economy, when he sounded a statistic 3 weeks before they ended, 82% of the red vouchers were claimed, so people used them. Some people might have used them for deliveries as well, to be honest. So the people going to restaurants, they were already comfortable. Obviously, they were very cautious of the vulnerable, the elderlies. I think once we overcome this, I do think we can get back to normality eventually.
Matipaj, thank you very much.
Thank you for your invite.
Just a reminder that our book about Daniel Holmes' Memo from Malta's Prison is available. You can, it's a tale of a prisoner who spent 8.5 years in Malta's prison for growing a few cannabis plants at home. You can go on lovindeals.com to find out more. And that's it from us today, and have a day full of loving.